Okay, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Bill Mehari here in the house today. Another edition of MehariNation Sports here. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to the greater fighting community. And we got some good guests here today, though. We got the brother Hyphy here. What's going on, brother?
Yo, what's going on, everybody in the chat? We just want to thank y'all for tuning in. Definitely going to be talking about a couple different topics, sports related today. Good Sunday, just for everybody to relax. Glad we got my brother that I really like, Kurt, joining us today. What's up, Kurt?
Hey, Hyphy. Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's up, chat, man? Just cooling out on this Sunday afternoon, watching these conference basketball games, man. I love the smaller conference games, man. They're real exciting. We're going to talk about different topics today, so I'm glad to be on the show.
Yeah, for sure, man. And the big thing is the NCAA tournament is going to start next week, bro. I mean, it's going to be a wild 3 weeks there. And actually, since the Final Four is going to be in Minneapolis this year, I'm actually going to plan on getting tickets to the national championship game. So that way I can at least try to get you guys some of that exclusive content and let you guys come into US Bank Stadium and check out all the festivities there too. And also they got the practices there that are going to be free to the public. So I'm gonna try to make sure y'all get to see the exclusive access, and hopefully we can get to see the Final Four all access too, and try to get some interviews with some of the all-time great players in NCAA tournament history. So before we start that, let's talk about the fights that we saw last night. Let's start with Ugas versus Porter last night. Unfortunately, I was sleeping after the 5th round, but luckily I was able to watch the replay. But let's try to get started here and talk about it. Let's go with Curtis first. What did you saw out of the fight last night?
Well, Porter was terrible, man. He seemed like he was ill prepared. Remember, he was 2 pounds over the weight limit. He did eventually make weight, but with a performance like that, they're trying to turn him into a boxer. They want to see him box now. They're trying to turn him into Jersey Joe Walcott. He used the whole ring. I'm like, he's doing himself a disservice, man. He would have been better bullying Ugas, because he could have very easily lost this championship belt. He already lost it to the IBF belt to Cal Brook, and the WBC strap. He got, but he could have very easily lost it to Ugas, man. So he's very lucky. They're deviating from their plan, man, and it's not working out. He's too short, to box. He throws every punch, caution to the wind. They don't even come close to landing. And I was like, these punches not coming close. I don't know if he's closing his eyes, putting his head down, but they're very sloppy. And Porter really didn't look good. And Ugas should have won that title, because I thought he won, but because of the politics, I knew they weren't going to give it to him if it was remotely close. He should have been more aggressive, should have jabbed more, less clowning. You can't clown a fight, and expect to win. That's just like a non-star basketball flop, and they're going to call it every time. You don't have that clout like that to win, to clown and think you're going to get a title like that. You should have been more aggressive. You should have pushed the fight more. Like I said, I have Ugas winning, but Porter, man, I think Porter going to lose the belt in his next defense.
Interesting. All right, we'll send it down to Hyphy there. So Hyphy, what you thought about the fight last night between Ugas and Porter?
Yeah, this is something that just it kind of bothers me. I know it's not fair that the challenger has to, I guess clearly beat the champion. To me, it should be that, hey, it's an even fight going in. Both guys have to, both guys has to beat the guy. That's how the champion became a champion. And then 2, the politics regarding Cuban boxers not being basically not being marketable, or the preferred fighter, so not really being able to sell and all that stuff that comes into play. Now, with that said, at the end of the day, none of these boxers are that dumb. You have to know that the politics are against you. You can't go in here trying to fight the fight as if like you really getting a fair shake. That's what happened with Alvarez versus Kovalev. Like, bro, these fights are not set up for you to really, win based on politics. To me, that's where Ugas messed up. I know it's not fair, but it is what it is, and you know what it is when you sign up for these fights. Showboating and just the whole fight, he was getting off second. That's another. I hate when guys do that. You usually lose fights when you get off second, and just all the jarring at the mouth and stuff when you could be letting your hands go more. You should be pressing the gas and trying to, really take the belt from this guy and, not leave it in the judge's hands, or at least, not leave without a doubt that you won the fight. I don't understand why these guys do it. And I'm going to also put on this and listen to me carefully. Even though that the Canelo and Jacobs fight has not happened, I am mad at Jacobs right now because of the way he fought Canelo. Because I know that's how he's going to go in there and fight that fight. And yeah, I'm done. Pass the mic to Abel.
That's classic hypey for you. So here's my analysis of this fight there too. Ugas should have pressed on the gas more. I mean, you have to know that when you're fighting against a champion, the odds are not in your favor. And so I don't understand why he felt like he could go in there and try to stop profile style and try to climb around a bit instead of pressing on the attack and try to go after Porter. And just like as Curtis said, he was not looking good. I mean, he came in there 2 pounds of overweight. He had to cut his hair to try to at least to go below the 147-pound weight limit. And then, Porter didn't look like himself out there. And so, and this is kind of the trend that I'm kind of seeing with a lot of these Cuban fighters. Not Ortiz, though, because at least Ortiz is aggressive. Hang on a sec. Yeah, and the thing is this, though, bro. The thing is that the thing that I'm most alarmed with a lot of these fighters is that especially with the Cuban fighters, they attack. They try to use their natural skills, but they don't try to go press the attack forward. Do you understand what I'm saying, Curtis?
Right, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I'm noticing it's kind of a trend that is going on with a lot of these Cuban fighters. I mean, or is it just me? I'm not sure.
No, it's not you, because Lara is the same way. You play a dangerous game in boxing when you leave it in the hands of these judges, man. You don't know what you're thinking. It's always good to be aggressive, man, because the more aggressive you are, the more you throw punches, you can land something big, especially in the championship rounds, man. People remember the 11th and 12th round rather than the first and second, so you have to press the action, but that's part of their culture. Mexican fighters are aggressive and Cuban fighters, they lay back in a box, but with American judges, you plan a very, very difficult game because, you don't have that name. When you have a name in boxing, you have the clout. So Lara doesn't have the clout. Ugas doesn't have the clout. So it's very easily to get robbed or to award the other fighter because, you're just the name in boxing in that division where the other guy is the champion. His name is bigger than yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So another thing that I also wanted to discuss about too, and this really annoyed the heck out of me. It was actually before the fight. When they were doing the in-studio interview with Earl Spence Jr., and then the audacity of this dude, Keith Thurman, to call Earl Spence Jr., how would you feel about being the second best heavyweight in the division? And then Earl Spence just laughed it off he had the look of face MFer, you know what it is. You just don't want to fight me. Did y'all felt that? Let's start with you, Curtis.
Yeah, I thought, man, the gall of this dude, man, the nerve of this dude, like Jay would say, this, going to sit up there. You've been ducking the man, for a long time, and say, how does it feel to be the second best welter? Well, fight him then, Keith. That's what we're waiting for now. He got a fight coming up on Saturday. After the Garcia fight, then fight him. He would love to fight you. That fight is That's all it takes, a phone call for Heyman and a fight is on board. So fight them. You got nobody believes you. You said you're the best welter in the world. Nobody believes that. There's a man in Omaha, Nebraska that may be the best welterweight in the world. So you may be third. Backed up. Back up that stupid talk, man. So get in the ring with Earl, and we'll see.
Hey, Ify, fire away, bro. Because I could guess what you. I'm thinking what you're gonna say about it.
Hey, yeah, what's crazy is during that time I was pouring up my homie and myself another drink, and I wasn't really paying attention to who exactly was talking, who asked that question. But when I heard the does this make you the second best welterweight? Bruh, I almost snapped. I was about to go off. I'm like, is Fox really about to have somebody up here asking this type of question? Now it made sense that it was Keith Thurman, so I cooled down a little bit. But man, Thurman is not the first best. He's not the second best welterweight. That dude in his last fight, he looked ripe for the pickings, just like Sean looked last night. So I really don't care about what he talking about either.
Oh man, you know what I mean. I mean, the bottom line is this, though. I mean, for Keith Thurman to sit around and try to like pretend like he's still the best welterweight out there when he's been out for the last 2 years and hasn't done anything at all, it's mind-boggling to think like. I'm sorry, I moved that mic. But had the audacity, but the unmitigated goal to try to pretend like he's still the man in that division. But when you clearly have not fought in 2 years and only fought against a light touch in Josecito Lopez, and you didn't even look good in it. You almost got knocked out. So it's just funny to me how he tries to pretend, how he tries to proclaim himself as still the man when he haven't even done much. It's funny to me, bro. It's real funny. You know what I mean? So, okay. So I'm going to start switching up the conversation a bit. Okay. Hold on 1 second here. Trying to get CB Sports TV on here, but I don't know if this
I'm going to give a shout out to, we got some people in the chat listening, of course. JJ, that's John Black Johnny. He's in there. JMJ2121. Of course, Two Robinson is checking us out. Not Rohai. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Is definitely checking us out also. So yeah, I'm definitely looking at the chat. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks y'all for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it on this very nice, beautiful day here on Sunday afternoon, bro. Let me as we're gonna get this started about the NBA conversation thing. Maybe let's try to start off something here. Curtis, you've seen a lot. I'm sure you've seen a lot of great players in your time. I mean, what were some things you remember during those days growing up in New Jersey? Let's start with that as I try to find Carbarell's email here.
Oh, man. High school basketball is big. Playground basketball is big, still is growing up. I used to go to Rucker Park in Harlem, seeing all the great players. It was a street basketball team. It was probably the best team I ever seen, called Kenny Kings. You can look them up. There was a movie, a documentary on the Kenny Kings called Soul in the Hole. They won the championship 2 years. They went undefeated, and they lost in the championship game. The point guard was a crack addict, but this guy did tricks with the basketball. I forgot his name, man. He had a street name, man. This guy was like the Allen Iverson of the hood, man. This guy was so talented. College basketball growing up, Syracuse was big. St. John's was big. They had the rivalry with Georgetown. That was great. NBA basketball. People forget that it wasn't Jordan who brought basketball back. It was Magic and Bird, the rivalry. Because before they entered the league, the NBA finals used to be on tape delay. The NBA wasn't that big then. When Magic and Bird came into the league, that's when basketball really took off, man. They don't get the credit they deserve, but Magic and Bird brought basketball back to prominence. You know, it was the Lakers and Celtics. It was East Coast, West Coast. You know, you had players like Kevin McHale, Cedric Maxwell, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson for the Celtics. You know, Danny Ainge and for the Lakers. You know, you had Byron Scott. You know, of course, Magic Johnson, the aforementioned Magic Johnson, James Worthy, who was very underrated, probably the best baseline player I've ever seen in my life. You had Kurt Rambis was the garbage man. You always need a player like Kurt Rambis on your team, and it was this great time to be a basketball fan, man. Magic and Bird from college. I was going for Bird then. Indiana State played Michigan State. I think it's the most watched basketball game in history, college, or I'm going to check the ratings, but that was a big deal, man. I can't believe how long ago that was. I was like 13 years old, man. I'm 52, so that goes to tell you how long ago that was. But it was just a great, great time for basketball, Abel.
Okay, fantastic. And we also got Mr. CB Sports CB in the house. What's going on, CB?
What's good, Abel? Mehari, how you feeling, man?
Feeling good, bro. Apologize for playing around, bro, because I was trying to get your email down, and then for some reason it got blocked, so I had to do it a second time. So I'm glad it worked out. But before we get back to the basketball conversation there, I want to ask for your opinion about what you saw in the fight between Porter and Ugas. What did you saw out of the fight? And what did you like and disliked about it too?
It was a good fight. It was a good fight. It was a very competitive and very close fight. I liked Sean Porter. You know what I'm saying? He's out showing his boxing skill instead of trying to wrestle. He was outboxing. He was jabbed beautifully last night. And Ugas was countering. Was a really good counter punching. And it was a good fight. You know what I'm saying? But all his showboating, like, dude, you're not the champ. You're trying to beat the champ. You're not for you can't try to pull the Tyson Fury with all that showboating and all that type of crap. Like that crap is going to work. When you're trying to be the champ, you got to be the champ definitively and convincingly to take his title. A lot of people say, "Well, Ugas got robbed." No, I actually had that fight 7-5 for Porter. He was because he was catching Ugas with a lot of jabs. I mean, but Ugas touched him up, as you can tell by his face, and cut him up and everything. And Ugas was landing power shots, but Porter boxed in and out, because Ugas is a much bigger guy. And it was a very good fight. But for people trying to cry foul, because, listen to the crowd. Well, first off, they were out there in Carson, California. They don't like blacks around there, okay? So that's the one thing, okay? Now, I'm just going to keep it real. That's just being honest.
All right, cool.
The crowd was pro Ugas from the opening bell. So it's like, so what? I know what I saw on TV. It was a very good fight. It was a very close fight. Those first 6 rounds were so hard to score. You can either get to Porter, you can either get to Ugas, or you can just have an even round, And that's just what it was.
All right, cool. So the other second question I got for you, CB Sports CB, is: did you ever able to see the in-studio interview with Earl Spence Jr., where they had the PBC crew along with Keith Thurman asking them questions about the Garcia fight, and then just the nerve of no time Keith Thurman to sit here and say, how would you feel like if you accomplish the second best welterweight in the division, and then the laugh that Earl Spence gave off of afterwards?
I mean, because Earl Spence know this guy's a clown. You're still trying to ride my wave like your name is hot, and Keith Thurman ain't been hot. Because everybody know, like, you were not injured like that, and you really ran into hiding to not to run a fade with Earl Spence. We know this. Everybody that's a fight fan knows this. And I like how Earl Spence told him, I'm already the number one welterweight. And March 16th, I'm gonna prove that, and then I'm gonna prove it again after that, and after that again. Keith, when he said that, Keith Thurman got quiet as a church mouse. And the whole thing is, Keith Thurman knows that eventually is going to be his day of reckoning. He's trying to get the Pacquiao fight. But the Pacquiao, that fight is, Pacquiao's going to be in Dallas for the Spence Garcia fight. More than likely, he's going to fight that winner. Now, I'd rather see Sean Porter and Errol Spence because that's a unification fight. Honestly, I would. I'd rather, it's unification, and he gets a step closer to undisputed.
Right.
I'm not going to say Keith Thurman because we all know we're not going. We all know that that's not happening. With Keith Thurman. So we're going to be honest. Not play no devil's advocate, and And just be honest about it, Keith Thurman ain't gonna fight Earl Spencer like he said to the earliest of 2020. So he's irrelevant until 2020. Now I'm being honest with you.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And also to my homie Cali Enigma, if you feel like jumping in, bro, go ahead and distribute your email, and I'll try to get you on. But yeah, bro, I mean, here's the bottom line to this. We all know that Keith Thurman is trying to cash himself out at this point, because what he feels in his mind is he feels like he has nothing else to prove. But the problem is, because he's been out the last 2 years, he hasn't been looking good, and it's a total 360 personality change to what we saw a couple of years ago when he wanted to fight everybody. And the influence. Here's what I said in last night's live stream in my debut as well. I firmly believe, and also along with Blue Blood Sports TV, shout out to him, that the influence of Mayweather in protecting that and milking out fights has done a lot more damage to the sport, because now a lot of the fighters in 147 and now the fighters in the heavyweight division, they're not looking for that kind of smoke, because they're only care about getting that huge big purse and then cashing out their O's when they feel that their career, or they feel like their value as a fighter is going to diminish, and that's a very sad trend that we're seeing with all of these fighters, though, bro. I mean, it's very disappointing. So now we're going to get away from that. We're going to get back to the basketball conversation here, because that's what's going to be that's the main emphasis of the live stream here. So let's talk about some of the greatest players I've ever seen. Now, I grew up in the 90s, and mostly the 90s where I felt was like the best era of basketball. Even though Michael Jordan, mostly dominated the sport, there were a lot of great players during that time that could have won the title, that could have won a championship in any different era. But let me ask y'all this. Who are your favorite players of all time that never won the title? So let's start with Curtis Anderson first.
Oh man, favorite players that never won the title. With Charles Barkley, Tom Chambers. I was a big Tom Chambers fan. John Stockton. Who else? I like Patrick Ewing. It was number of players because of that man in Chicago. But John Stockton is very underrated, man. He made Karl Malone. He was a player that really doesn't get the recognition he deserved. Charles Barkley, because he was only like 6'6", and he was a bully on the court, man. So I like his tenacity, So there was my favorite players that never won a title, But growing up, in the 70s, you had Connie Hawkins, man. You had, David Thompson. You had George Iceman Gervin. If you watch Kevin Durant play, he reminds you a lot of George Iceman Gervin. He was tall and thin, just like him, and he was a scoring machine. David Thompson can leap out the building. They call him the Skywalker. You had a lot of great players, man. You had a lot of great scorers. Dan Issel for the Denver Nuggets. Kiki Vandeweghe, I used to like, I'm going in the 70s and 80s, it's like, all the games was like high scoring. They was fun to watch, up and down. If you like the Golden State Warriors, well, the whole league was like that. The ABA, and, when I was a kid, I'm going way back, you had Downtown Freddie Brown, and you had Elvin Hayes, the Biggie, Jack Sigma. I can go on and on. So those are my memories about basketball growing up.
For sure. Let's go to Hyphy, man. What were your favorite players that never won the NBA championship?
For me, it's going to be I guess it's two of them, and they go hand in hand, obviously. That's going to be Malone and Stockton. Me coming up in my era, being that I'm younger, it was just, kind of heartbreaking because, it's like, damn, they came so close, but it was just that one team and one guy they just could not get past, and it was Jordan. But those memories of those finals are just, just really, really, forever be in me. So, and like those were great players too, Malone and Stockton. And like I said, they came so close, they just couldn't get past that one player. Malone, obviously, he even tried to, get one when Stockton retired. He tried to go to LA. Obviously, that didn't pan out. But him in his prime, so two great players, him and Stockton. But like I said, they just could not get over that hump. So I guess 1A and 1B, Stockton and Malone. I'm done.
All right, for sure, for sure. How about you, CB?
Oh, well, since I'm a Bulls fan, you know what I'm saying? I'm from Chicago, born and raised, that's my squad. 6 rings, 8 years. But players I enjoyed was like Sir Charles Barkley. Of course, I hated Karl Malone and John Stockton, but I mean they were great players, They absolutely were. Same thing with like Patrick Ewing was a great player that never won a ring. You have the likes of Sean Kemp, the Rain Man, who was very underrated back then. Sean Kemp boy was a 6'10" guy that could literally jump out the roof with a double machine.
Mm-hmm.
And he was great. It was just, it was just a lot of talent. Like, what I'm saying, back, that you had guys back in the 80s. Like I remember like Bob Love and like Reggie Theus never won titles, So it was that was good though. But I mean, yeah, but I remember those series with the Jazz though, like the Jordan flu game, then the shot, It was, but those were great finals. It was great basketball back then. You could actually guard and defend somebody. Now, if you sneeze on a person, you might get a flagrant foul. Like seriously.
You know what? And you know what? You just led me into my next subject in hand here, because I'll tell you who were my favorite players who didn't win the title. And shout out to Johnny. He actually made a great point there. Allen Iverson and Reggie Miller were also great players who never won an NBA championship. Because Allen Iverson, one of the greatest crossover dribblers in the history of the game, and then Reggie Miller, one of the all-time great clutch shooters. But he played in the same division, and CB can attest to this. They played in the same Central Division, where Michael and the Bulls were always in the way almost every year. And so, it's unfortunate for Miller's sake that he could have won a title too, especially in that 1998 Eastern Conference Finals too, where they were so close to beating them as well. All them great players, bro, had chances to win the title too as well, And so I'm going to get into the next subject and conversation in hand there too, because CB made a great point. What do you think has been the problem about the game these days? Not just because of the defense alone, but Curtis, let me ask you this question though. When did you start noticing the trend where the NBA wanted to go? Because obviously you see the physicality of the 70s and the 80s, and obviously throughout the 90s too. When do you think the NBA started cracking down on hand checking, zone defenses, and try to open up the court for more scoring?
Well, the NBA wants a more wide open game, but the players' mentality, they want to play one-on-one. Even with a wide open game, you still have to pass the ball. That's why Golden State win. They're a very underrated passing team. They turn the ball over and they can shoot long range, but they pass the ball and they're great in transition. Even, without hand checking, that's why they did that, when you couldn't put your hands on a player to control them, and the NBA different because now you got kids that's coming out of school very early, so they not mature, so they don't have a mid-range game, it's 3-pointer or dunk, 3-point or dunk. That's all it is, there's no the big man doesn't have post moves no more like Elijah Wan did. The great players, the defense, like T.R. Dunn was a great defensive guard and Joe Dumars. You don't have that no more. There's certain aspects of the NBA game that's not present. It's just a generation thing. People, they in love with the 3-point line. And that's okay to use it, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword, or dunk. You know, players don't pull up for 10 feet anymore like they did in the past. You know, they don't have that cohesive unit like they did in the past, man. You know, that's why when people ask me about the Golden State Warriors, I said they wouldn't beat those teams like the Bulls, you know, and the Lakers and the Celtics because they don't have the intestinal fortitude. They're not tough like that. They can win games high scoring or they can win low scoring games, and Golden State can win the high scoring games. But you know, I would say the mid range game and the defense is missing in today's basketball.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. The other thing that I would say, if the Warriors and the Bulls of '96 matched up, it would be an epic series, though. But I think the bigger guard lineup would give the Warriors more trouble too. And my man CB, what would you see out of that Draymond Green and Dennis Rodman matchup?
Dennis Rodman will hold Draymond Green. He's too mentally weak. Dennis Rodman is mentally superior. That's not even a fair matchup. Seriously, Dennis Rodman to get Draymond Green to mess around and get ejected from every game that he's in because he don't know how to control his emotions. Then you have an assassin like Michael. You have an assassin like Michael Jordan, and who played great defense. Then you have Scottie Pippen, all around player who played elite and great defense like Mike. You have Ron Harper. Then you have the likes of a 3-point special like Tony, Steve Kerr, Jared Bushler. Then you have Tony Kukoc. Then you had Brian Williams, who won by Bison Dele. Rest in peace to him. But the Warriors, they went. I see that honestly, it ain't going 7. That's a 6-game series. Now Kevin Durant will make it close, but for Steph Curry, all trying to jack up threes and all that, no, it's not going to work. and then you got to look at like me. I'm still a fan of basketball, but my interest in basketball, like far as watching the NBA, is waning because I'm tired of seeing everybody jack up threes. I'm just seeing a mid-range game. I like seeing physicality. These boys nowadays, to me, don't have no heart. They have no passion. They soft as cookie dough. Everybody want to jack up threes. Nobody want to get down low, do the dirty work. I'm used to seeing, the likes of Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning. I saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm used to seeing point guards like Isaiah Thomas, play A1 defense, Magic Johnson, with Michael Cooper and them. I'm used to seeing defense, James Worthy, the Celtics, with Bird, McHale, Parrish. I'm used to seeing defense and passion. These boys out there nowadays want to whine, cry, then you blow on somebody. Look at guys like James Harden. Yes, he's a great offensive scorer, but he would have never been doing that back in the day because you all let somebody bump you and they just go into the line like, come on now, no way. He would have had to earn it. These dudes nowadays are soft as cookie. They soft. That's why I can't even watch the NBA like that no more. I watch it still, but not the way I used to. I used to be glued in. Nowadays, I know that's why I know the score for the Beast probably like 150 something to 140 something. Ain't no defense being played. When they put that hand check rule and all that, that's why Michael Jordan said with the rules nowadays, I can average 45 a night easily.
I would have to agree with you though, because you can't even play full court defense as much anymore because the one thing the Bulls were great at was their great full court defense, especially when Johnny Bach was commanding that defense there too. When you had Horace Grant who can also command the middle of the floor on their full court pressure, they harassed the hell out of a lot of teams there. Go back to watch that 1993 Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks. Just watch how they were able to dissect the entire Knicks backcourt. John Starks had no breathing room to try to at least dribble the ball up the court. Even Doc Rivers too. The thing is this, and also great point there by Lawrence Williams too. He also mentioned that the NBA games changed to attract more fans. Nobody wanted to see the Mike Fratello Cleveland teams win games like in the scores of 78-74. That's actually a really good point because the NBA took away the hand-checking rule after the 1993-94 season. The reason is because they believed that in taking away the hand-checking would allow more open court scoring. And then when you take away the zone defenses, when you implement illegal defenses where you can't double team the person without the ball, what it essentially did is that it took away the ability to play, the ability to double team a zone. So the only thing you can do was double team a person without the ball. And in the long run, I believe it hurt the game more because you can't defend anybody, and you can't even defend your guy. You can't even double team as much without a person without controlling the basketball. Y'all feel what I'm saying, guys?
Yep.
Let me hear this from Hyphy though, bro. I haven't heard you in a minute though, bro. Go ahead and speak away, bro. What do you think? What do you think happened to the game? Eventually down the line, since we're a younger generation than compares to CB and Curtis.
Hey, yeah, now that is a good point that Lawrence Williams had though about they're not wanting to see low scoring games and stuff because I don't know why some people they look at that as if it's like just not entertaining, but to me those are like the best games. Going back to the Detroit Pistons teams and stuff, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace. These teams playing real defense. They could beat you, on both sides of the court. Defense, slow the game down. So that was real impressive to me. Today is kind of ridiculous when I see a team have 68 points at halftime and stuff. It's just kind of funny to me. As far as the game changing and stuff, it's definitely changed. Draymond Green, that dude is like a Dillian White. Yeah, you look all gangster and tough and like you just this, tough player. But yeah, let me go get a Dell Davis. Let me go get a PJ Brown. Let me go get an Antonio Davis on you. You won't be so gangster then. You'll shut your ass up. But as far as it's pretty crazy. I want to ask you this question, Abel, but it's pretty crazy because a guy like Shaq, he would not be drafted #1 because he does not have a jumper and he's a post-up player. You don't have that post-up game anymore. And, he wouldn't be like the best as far as rotating on defense. So a guy like Shaq, as much talent as he had, could never be drafted #1 in this day and era. And I want to ask you, Abel, Dirk Nowitzki, that was also definitely like a huge part of the change that we're seeing today because you got this guy, Dirk, who, was never a defensive standout, but this dude could, pull up and, definitely shoot the ball from all areas of the court, and he could shoot the ball from angles. To me, it was Dirk who kind of set off this trend of these, Europe or foreign players, I should say, really coming into the NBA and having more of a presence. What you think about that?
Well, here's what I'll say to this, though. I've been thinking about that argument for years, but to me, I don't blame the European players per se for the change in the game because they basically brought in their game what they were taught. And actually, a lot of the European players are actually starting to outplay the NBA, the American players. But I blame it more on the rule changes because without a lot of the open court scoring and without the ability to play, at least some defense, I mean, you put Dirk Nowitzki against the players in the 80s. How do you think he will fare out? And I actually do say this. I think Shaquille O'Neal, with his lack of the shooting touch and inability to shoot free throws or anything like that, would hurt his stock though. But I think the other thing that I would also say from Shaquille O'Neal is that he would still be a top pick because he commands double teams. You know what I'm saying? The problem with that is that I don't think a lot of the teams in today would have a huge problem adjusting to what Shaquille O'Neal would bring because he would run down the middle of the floor, stop in the paint into his hot spot, and then once Kobe or any point guard would give him the ball, he would just dunk over you or just try to power up against you. And actually, let me ask y'all this: who do you think was the toughest guy that you think it was hard for officials to try to figure out? Because when Shaquille O'Neal played, he was so big and he was so powerful that every time when he leaned against his shoulder or used his rear end to push you off the block, it's always a 50-50 play that he's either an offensive foul or anything like that. Let's start with Curtis on that one.
Shaquille is up there because he was so strong and dominant, man. I'm trying to think of another player off the top of my head. I'm missing somebody, an old player. Maurice Lucas was another one because he used his behind before Shaq got in the league. So they used to call a lot of technical fouls on him and a lot of fouls. So I would have to go with Big Mo, Maurice Lucas, who played for the Portland Trailblazers.
How about Wilt Chamberlain?
Oh, yeah, he was just unfair, man. They had to bend the rules for him, man. He was like way before his time, man. Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt the Stilt, man. Absolutely.
I mean, when I read some of the accounts of a lot of the rule changes, the first rule change was that they took away the alley-oop pass because what they said was it was basically guiding the ball into the basket. I mean, that's what the alley-oop is. I mean,
that's the point. That's the point. Yeah, but they didn't like Wilt dominating the game. He was too dominant, so they tried to slow Wilt down, man. So that's what
also another rule that I also figured out too. There was a I think I can't find the footage anyway, but Wilt can actually jump from the free throw line and dunk it without even taking a free throw, and then they took away that rule saying you can't do that either. Remember that one, Curtis?
Yeah, well, I'm telling Wilt, they changed the rule because of Wilt. They didn't like Wilt doing all that, and they didn't like the 100-point game either. They hated that. Yeah, he was dominant. You didn't know what to do with him.
I mean,
they was glad that they wanted somebody on equal terms. So when Bill Russell came about, man, they was happy. You know, with Bill Russell, because Bill Russell got the best of them, not individually, but as a team. They kept beating the Lakers.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's just he was one of the most hardest players to, figure out there too. And also, and this is for the chat there too. When Lou Alcindor came into NCAA basketball, they actually banned it Duncan because his ability to he can basically go over the top of you and dunk over you. So they took away the dunk rule until 1976 or 77? I'm not sure the year, but yeah, for almost a long time they took away dunking. I mean, when I saw highlight reels of David Thompson, it was mostly backdoor passes, but you can only lay it up. It's just they would not allow players to dunk. You know what I mean? You remember that, Curtis?
Yeah. But they changed it because the ABA was probably one of the most exciting times at basketball. You had Julius Erving play for the Virginia Squires. You had people like Larry Keenan. And for those who don't know Larry Keenan, go look at highlights. He was in Human Highlight Film. Connie Hawkins, people like that, Pistol Pete Maravich. I like players like Rick Barry, Kiki Vanderway, Dan Issel, players like that. They was great, man.
Yeah, for sure. My man. No doubt about it, though. I mean, it's just mind-boggling how much the game has changed. I wish I grew up those times. When the game was actually it's not like a high-scoring game, but it's actually you have to earn every single point. I mean, the only reason why they made those things is because they wanted the casual fans to see more scoring instead of defense. But I always prefer watching games that were in the 70s or early in the mid 80s because at least we see some defense being played. Now I'm getting tired of all these 100 to 150 to 165 games. I mean, it's on drugs to see what's going on. To a lot of the scoring that's going on. Did y'all guys feel the same way?
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that same way. Like I just said a little bit earlier, I can't remember which team, but it was a game. It was a game this year. One of the teams, they scored like 50 points in the first quarter, and bro, can you imagine? Any one of these teams from even like the early 2000s giving up like 50 points. I mean, it used to be a bad thing when you gave up like 32 and 34 points in the first quarter. Like that was considered a horrible defense. So, I'm just not I don't know, for me, because even like watching football, I used to like to see those games where, hell, it might be only like 6-9. That might be the final score. Remember those Ravens teams and stuff like that, those Bears teams. So, I'm more accustomed to that type of stuff. It's more to my liking because, like I said, anybody could go out there and shoot the ball, but can you play some defense? That's just more of my preference. As far as like really changing the rules, even though we're talking NBA, don't forget Kareem. They really had to change it. I mean, they had a hard time dealing with Kareem in college. Wilt definitely had a hard time dealing with him in the NBA. Shaq, like you said, even though it would be kind of easy to adjust him because he does the same thing, but I mean, even when he was playing, he played against better defenders. And look, Shaq was still able to be dominant in his prime. So even if you know what he's going to do, you wouldn't be able to stop him. But that Shaquille O'Neal style, it just wouldn't be like I said, it just wouldn't be as preferred today. I don't see anybody, posting up and playing like that, and I don't know if it'll ever come back the way the game is changing.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. You know what I mean? It's just mind-boggling to me how much the game has changed there too. And also, this is for the chat there too. And this is actual fact. When Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain met each other during the 1997 All-Star Game, when they were celebrating the 50 greatest players of all time, Wilt Chamberlain came to Michael Jordan and said, "Hey, listen, little guy. They changed the rules for you to make sure that you were dominant. When I used to play, they used to change the rules to make me less dominant, to make my life a living hell. Enough said." You know what I mean? It just goes to show you that when the new beneficiary of the league comes in, they will adjust and change different rules to suit its main star players, because all it comes down to is they want the money, they want the notoriety too. You know what I mean? That's how I kind of see it. So let me get into the next subject in hand here as well. Let's talk about the greatest teams that never won the championship. I'll start with me first. There are a couple of them in mind I was thinking of. 1993 Phoenix Suns, and then for a lot of us new age comers, the 2002 Sacramento Kings, in which it was one of the worst officiated series I've ever seen. I watched the Game 6 refereeing job, one of the worst officiating jobs I've ever seen in my life. You talk about 27 free throws in the fourth quarter, and you had three of your top three centers fouling out of the game. When you basically were blowing air, when Vlade Divac was playing straight up defense, they call that a foul. That was just blatant drugs. You know what I'm saying? It was the worst. I'm sure everybody in the chat, listen up. It was the worst officiated series I've ever seen. There was no way it should have gone. There was no way they should have gotten into Game 7. But I'll tell you a little fact. I talked to an actual NBC cameraman, I think 4 or 5 years ago. He talked about that series more exclusively, and he was actually sitting on the underneath the basket support when Kobe Bryant elbowed Mike Bibby in the face, and even himself, he was thinking, he was seeing, and he was recording that play, and even he said to himself, "Why in the hell was that not a foul?" It was this the audacity of the NBA to screw the Kings out of that series. It was a horrible refereeing job. But the 93 Phoenix Suns, for me, they were an excellent offensive team. They could really push it up. And obviously you had Barkley there. But I never felt that team played with an edge. They've always played like they were hiding, or they were basically running from something. And then when they went against the Chicago Bulls, it took them 8 losses to figure out what they had to do to beat them. But by then it was too late. And that was another team that had a chance to beat the Bulls, but just fell short. So let's go down the line here. Let's start without Hypey, though, because I know you were laughing about my Kings comment.
Yeah. Damn, I got an echo. Hey, am I echoing?
No, you're not. You're fine.
All right, I got an echo on my side. But yeah, it would be that was ridiculous. I was laughing because that game, it shouldn't have went to a Game 6. And you got to understand, me coming from LA, living in LA at the time, everybody around me was happy, but I'm just keeping it chill. That should not have went to a Game 7. Just all the stuff they were letting go. I'm also laughing because that fourth quarter versus the Blazers, the Lakers, when they came back, I think it was from like 14 or so, but they was letting so many calls go. Like, that's how I feel that the NBA, they just like wanted the Lakers to, advance. They had it real tough, and that was a good thing because, they needed some officiating help just to, win those championships against the Kings and the Blazers actually in the West Coast Finals. But yeah, I don't know. As far as the team that should have won, I probably would say that Kings team because when I was younger, I used to always try to do that. Remember that pick and roll that Weber and Bibby used to do? And Bibby used to come off the pick and roll. That was like my favorite move as a player. So just for that alone, that's always going to be that mid-range jumper that Bibby used to hit. Oh, that was so nice.
You know what? Hey, Hyphy, I was actually thinking of something there. And remember that game 7 in 2000 against the Blazers? Steve Smith was driving the ball to the basket, towards the right, and then Shaquille O'Neal tries to come in on the weak side to block the shot and basically hammers Steve Smith down to the floor, and they called no foul. It was a blatant foul, and they didn't even call it.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Like, I was probably the only one living in Southern California that was willing to admit it, but yeah, they definitely got some special treatment. I'm sorry, it's true.
I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, here's the thing though about that comeback. I mean, it was the Blazers' own doing there because they missed like 13 straight shots in that fourth quarter. I mean, they played tentative, but you gotta admit that foul on Sabonis to get his 6th foul was ridiculous. And then obviously the Steve Smith foul. I mean, I remember on NBA for Open Court, they were actually talking about that play, and then Shaq Sinner was like, "Yeah, I fouled you. So what?"
Hey, before we pass it to Kurt, can I just mention for a second, because that '93 Phoenix team, that was a good team. You know, Kevin Johnson as point guard, I always liked him. A good shooter they had was Danny Ainge. He was on that team.
Dan Marley.
Dan Marley also. Dan Marley, that is traveling ass, but I like that dude. I think he's just a traveler, but I like his ass. But that was a good team. You know, unfortunately they didn't get it, but yeah, I definitely like that team. I'm done. Kurt could go.
All right, for sure. And also one before Curtis goes, so shout out to Lawrence Williams in the chat there. He said that 80s Bucks team with Sidney Moncrief, Presley, and Cummings and Ricky Pierce, that team should at least one chip. Absolutely, bro. No doubt about it. You know, the Bucks, the Hawks should at least won one ring in that era, but they were playing in the 80s of Magic, Bird, Isaiah. That time, it was real hard to win those rings back then. So go ahead, Curtis. Who were your favorite teams that never won the NBA championship that you liked?
1977 Philadelphia 76ers had a really, really good team, man. They blew that series. They was up 2-0, I believe, and they lost to Bill Walton and the Portland Trail Blazers. That team choked, man. That's when Irvin dunked on Walton, you know. And 1992 Portland Trail Blazers, you know, when they had Kersey and Drexler, you know, what's the other guard? Porter. They was a long-range shooting team. That team could shoot the ball. And they had Chicago. And the game 6, they was up by 20. And they lost, you know. And they just ran into that man again, Michael Jordan. So the 77 Sixers, the 92 Blazers, and that team with Portland, because they would have won it, but they choked against the Lakers. When Scottie Pippen, it was a game 7, they had a big lead, and they lost to Kobe and Shaq when they came back and beat the Trailblazers. The Trailblazers had like 3 or 4 occasions. They had teams, man, where they could have very easily won the championship. And remember, everything would have been changed if that dummy GM passed up Michael Jordan to select Sam Bowie. You know, he would never let that down. Jordan would have been the Portland Trailblazers. But the good thing about that, the Jordan sneakers still would have been black and red.
Leave it to Curtis Anderson to remind us of that Jordan sneakers. Oh my goodness, man. You know, and I'll say this though, man. I mean, the Blazers though, bro. I mean, I can't believe how they were really good at drafting players. But yeah, I mean, they drafted. You know what's so funny though? I mean, the 83 draft was the draft. It was the draft class before Michael Jordan came out of that draft. I mean, the Houston Rockets drafted Rodney McRae from Louisville, and then the Blazers ended up drafting Clyde Drexler. Can you imagine if they had both Drexler and Olajuwon together in their young prime before that 95 year, but when they won the title?
Oh man, that's bananas.
I mean, it would have been interesting because you know you obviously had the who were the teams there? You had Ralph Sampson and you had Olajuwon, but then you had Drexler as your guard. Ooh, man, imagine that though. I mean, Ralph Sampson, though, I mean, he was a really phenomenal player, but, you know, those legs, bro, those legs couldn't stay together, though. And, you know what I mean? And also, shout out to Ambition is Everything. Thanks for the support there, brother. Appreciate it, though, man. You know, I will say this to everybody in the chat. I probably will do some live streams on every Saturday and Sunday because I work mostly during the week, though. But I will be around in other chats in the LDBC showing my love and appreciation and support there, too. So let's continue the conversation there. Lawrence Williams, that's a really great point. But here's the big thing about Sabonis. Sabonis could have came to the Blazers, though, but the Soviets wouldn't let him because it was during the period during the Cold War. Because the Blazers actually got medical papers of Sabonis' knees. They even realized how bad his knees were, and they were trying to tell him to like let his knees rest, but his team in Europe wouldn't allow him to. So by the time he came into Portland, he was already a shell of himself, but he was still an effective player even during the mid-'90s before he retired. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't dispute that at all. I mean, it was just one of those things where, you know, his knees couldn't stay, you know, long term during an NBA season. I mean, let me ask another question there too. We all have seen some great centers during our time there. If you had to choose an era of great centers, which one would it be for either of you guys? I'll start with me. I like the centers in the 90s, though, because they were more athletic. They could run the floor, and they had different variations of moves there, bro. I mean, obviously, Olajuwon's at the top, and then obviously the second person would be either, for me, it would either be Shaquille O'Neal or David Robinson, because when David Robinson, before the back injury, most athletic center I've ever seen play. And then obviously it'll be Ewing third, and then Alonzo Mourning fourth, and then Dikembe Mutombo would be fifth for me. So Curtis, if you had to choose a decade of centers that were dominant at that time, which one would it be?
Oh, I would have to say the 90s, man. Shaquille O'Neal, Olajuwon, you know, David Robinson. But I remember Olajuwon ate him up for breakfast, man. You know, he embarrassed him that series, man. You know, with the feints and fakes. You know, Kareem was, you know, this is going back. You know, Kareem in his prime was unstoppable, though, with the Skyhawk. That was a shot. That was a money shot right there. You know, of course, you had Russell and Chamberlain earlier than that. You know, but I would probably have to lean towards the 90s. You know, Shaq did the same thing, but he was so strong. He was like a irresistible force.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to love him and seeing him and Olajuwon go at it, man, because it was like the movable object versus the irresistible force, man. You know, so I would probably have to say the 90s. 80s was okay too, but I'm gonna have to say the 90s.
Okay, so this is a question for everybody in the chat. Between a matchup between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Akeem Olajuwon, I'm talking about Olajuwon in his mid-'90s when they were when the Rockets were winning championships. Who would you take? So then I'm gonna give that question to the chat. So let's go to Hyphy here. Which era of centers would you like the most? The 70s, the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, and our era too? Even though
yeah, man, it was definitely that 90s because one, like you guys just talked about, that was a good mention. Sabonis, even though when he got to the NBA, he was already definitely shop worn. But you know, we seen Sabonis overseas, and he was definitely like a more complete. He was just a better player before he got to the NBA, before the knees. Another guy whose knees problems really messed him up was Patrick Ewing, because even though he had a hell of a career, I remember Ewing. It was after like his second season. His knees was already giving him so many problems. He had lost like a spring in his step even then, and he was never that, you know, physical player he could be, but obviously he still had a great career. Another dude who I really like and will always talk about, David Robinson, because this was a dude who could score. If he had to score 6 points in a game, he would still have such a effect on that game, and in big games too. So he showed that you don't have to be just, you know, this huge scorer to, you know, definitely have a presence on the game. Olajuwon, probably never be another big man with the footwork that he has. Olajuwon would just dog you with that footwork and those moves. Shaq, you know, also obviously him being dominant. So it would definitely have to be that 90s era, man.
Yeah. Also, Lawrence Williams said that Kareem is probably the GOAT. In the 70s, he was unstoppable. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kareem, before he moved to Los Angeles, bro, he was phenomenal. I mean, his athletic ability to block shots, but also he could, and I think Curtis can remember this, the 75 NBA Finals, when he actually took the inbound pass, dribbled the baseline, and hit a hook shot from about 16 feet. I mean, that was amazing. You remember that one, Curtis?
Yep. Like it was yesterday. I remember Kareem well, man. Damn, I've been watching basketball for a very long time, man. But I would have to take Kareem, man, of all centers because he always had that money shot, man. You know, and I remember Magic when he first came into a league, they was playing the Clippers, I believe, and he hit a baseline hook shot, and Magic hugged him, wouldn't let him go. It's just like he felt comfortable being around Kareem, and Kareem know how to win, you know. So I would have to, even though I love Elijah Wan, I would have to take Kareem.
Yeah. The funny part about that, I remember that actually played on YouTube too. I mean, when he actually went up to to Kareem and just like hugging him and stuff like that, I was like,
Yeah.
bro, it's only the first game of the regular season. It's like only the first game of the regular season. I mean, you're choking the hell out of him, bro. Relax. I mean, remember that 1980 NBA Finals? I mean, that was a complete package of what Magic was able to bring to the table. I mean, playing in as a center and then dropping 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in that game. I mean, it was just unbelievable, bro.
Yeah, that was Magic turned great because I remember we went to school talking about it, man. That's what everybody was talking about, the versatility of Magic Johnson during that game, man. It was like it was great. I remember he went down the middle and dunked on Julius too. A lot of people don't remember that, but I remember that. Magic was great, man. He was a great player, man. And that game right there, one of his best. He played all positions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my favorite story for me is when Dirk Nowitzki came into the league. I remember seeing him the first time in that famous 2000 3-point contest. It was actually the year when Vince Carter took over the entire show with that unbelievable dunks. I remember just watching this guy. He was about 7 feet, 6'11", shooting jumpers. And then the next season, he almost won an improved player. And it was actually the day after my sister was born. And I saw him just completely owning Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz at that time. I think he was averaging about 25, 30 a game in that series. And that made me so oh my God, this guy is going to be a great player. And then the next year, he thrashed KG. He actually averaged about 33 points a game in that 2002 playoffs against my Timberwolves. And I had to sit there and watch KG get embarrassed the entire series. Man, and then Dirk said that actually playing against KG was actually a bit more difficult than going against Tim Duncan. I beg to differ. I mean, the thing with Tim Duncan, he was basically fundamentally sound, but he knew how to take Dirk Nowitzki's best moves there too. I mean, those series they had in 2006 were just phenomenal battles, though, bro, down in Texas. I mean, they were great times. They were great series to watch there too. And actually, that year in 2001 when the Mavericks won their first playoff series in 14 years, and then they faced against the Spurs the first time, I said to myself, they're going to be rivals for years to come. And then you add 2001, 2003, and then 06, and then 09. I mean, they were just great battles between the Mavericks and the Spurs during that period. You know what I mean? It was just great. So, yeah, for sure. So, hey, Curtis, you know any stuff about Pee Wee Kirkland?
Yeah, I used to hear about him, man. And, you know, when I used to go to Rucker Park and play basketball, you know, they use him, Tommy Hammonds, you know, Pee Wee Kirkland, you know, a couple of other legends, Earl Manigault, you know, he was a major drug dealer, man. You know, he wore the fancy white suits. There was a place on 145th Street in New York called Woolly Burgers that everybody used to go, all the players, you know, and that was a place to be seen and stuff. And he was a laid back kind of guy, you know, because I remember he got drafted and he got drafted. No, he went to college, community college, and he averaged like 41 points a game for Cottrell College, and then he got drafted, I believe, by the Bulls, I believe. My memory served correct, but he didn't like the pay. He was making more money being a drug dealer than an NBA player. Picture that. So he turned the offer down.
Wow.
he turned the offer down. He didn't want it. He said, "Why should I play in the NBA? Well, I could just sit back and get more money than you running up and down the court." So yeah, Pee Wee is a legend, man. Then he went to jail, and then he was it's not a big deal, but he was playing in some league, scoring 100 a game, but not 100 a game, but 100 here, 135 there. He was an explosive player, man. But Pee Wee Kirkland was a character. He has a lot of respect in Harlem, man.
So I never been to Harlem Park before. What's it like? What was it like in the Harlem Park in the 70s?
Oh my gosh, man. 70s, 80s, 90s, till this very day on 155th Street, the Polo Grounds, where the baseball field used to be, it's unbelievable. Cause see, I'm gonna go back, but now to this day, you be having the rappers come out there, like, Jules Santana be out there, Cameron, Jim Jones, they be out there, and you have a DJ out there, spinning records, and women, and walking back and forth, and there's a car show. It's everything, man. Seeing where it is, and and it be jam packed, little kids. It's a lot of fun. Once in a while, well, it used to be violence, but that's all gone because the police be out there, which is always unfortunate. But it's a lot of fun. The food, I don't go anymore, but I used to go all the time, and the 70s, 80s, man, they had some of the greatest games. In the 90s, they had some of the greatest games you would ever see. A lot of talent, but it takes more than physical skills to make it to the NBA. You have to have the attitude. A lot of people are not coachable. So you can have a jump shot from hell, a crossover, but if and a lot of players, they can't adapt to rules, but the Rucker Park, for any basketball fan, I wish, that you can, feel the ambiance, man, of Rucker Park. I mean, I remember Kevin Durant went there, and he was hitting jumpers from everywhere. It was him or Kobe. One of them scored 66, and stuff like that. They put on an exhibition, man. It's just a great place to be. Games all day. It was Durant. Okay, yeah, because Kobe went there, but Durant, I remember, and I didn't go that day, and I was mad because I watched the local news, and they talked about him, and he was hitting like 30, 35 footers like they were nothing, and the crowd was going crazy. But Rucker Park, if you can make it to Harlem, man, go to Rucker Park, man. It'll change your life.
Yeah, me too, bro. Actually, the biggest thing that changed my life is when I actually played in that Madison Square Garden during the 2015 All-Star weekend. I was actually invited by the Special Olympics committee there to play in Madison Square Garden. It was a special unified game, and all of a sudden, this tall, lanky dude comes out of the tunnel and then walks onto my bench. And I turned around and I turned my head and I saw, oh my God, it's Kevin Durant. And then when he reached out to me and I shook his hand, I was memorized by how big they are, because it's different when you see it in TV, but when you see it live, woo, big difference. And then the best part was I was actually sitting next to Steph Curry, the MVP, and he talked about growing up as an NBA player and seeing all the players that came in during that time, And the best part was Del Curry actually talked about the Charlotte Hornets during the mid-'90s. He talked about how Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning were kind of cool with each other, on the court, because they never really beefed with one another. But a lot of the stuff outside of the court, kind of got in the way of what they could have been. because Johnson, national championship, rookie of the year, maybe got into his head a little bit, and then he tried to show it up to Alonzo Mourning, who was just a rookie at that time, and kind of rubbed him off the wrong way, and then it kind of just started the beef with one another, and then the LJ contract he talked about, he said that Larry Johnson got overpaid because then after that his back gave out.
Yep.
Man.
Allen Houston did too.
Oh yeah. I mean, how much did Allen Houston got paid? Like 110, 115?
Something like that, man. They was paying him years after he stopped playing. I was like, God, you talk about somebody who got over, man. Hey, I ain't mad at him. Hey, get your money any kind of way.
Right, exactly. Mark, go ahead, Guy.
No, I was gonna say that's probably a good topic to dive into. Also, like just NBA players that got just really struck gold, getting overpaid and stuff. Because it's definitely been some.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mark Warner just basically said that KD can make a layup from the free throw line. His arms are so long. You know what? I wouldn't dispute that at all. I think if he decided to go underhand, he would probably make 90% of his shots. But yeah, I want to get into the part about the players who have been overpaid too. I know some names off the top of my head. Derek Coleman, way overpaid. Glenn Robinson. You know what? I had another one. Glenn Robinson. Let's hear it.
Oh man, yeah, Derek Coleman was way overpaid. I used to see him. Derek Coleman had a bad attitude, man. Plus his work ethic wasn't all that. Because every time I used to go to the club, he was in there. LT, the football player, great football player, best football player I've ever seen. Lawrence Taylor had a club called LT's in Jersey. Every week, Derek Coleman was in there drinking. And I used to look at him, I'd be like, man, this dude, man, something else, man. Plus, his attitude wasn't up to par. So he's one. Somebody else I'm missing. Well, did you see Mike Conley contract? Whew.
Oh, yeah.
Would you pay that much for Mike Conley?
No, not at all.
I mean, hey, I don't want to sound like, hey, get your money, but if they're gonna overpay you, then they must have the money. Mike Conley, I forget his contract, but it's a monster. I mean, James Harden not overpaid, because he's a superstar, but somebody like Mike Conley, who's a very good player, I've watched him ever since he went to Ohio State. If they want, if when a player gets overpaid, it's because of your agent. Your agent is negotiating, and he getting you that extra bread. Was Antoine Walker overpaid? That's a question to be asked. Well, he lost all his money, so he became a slumlord. Yeah, so being overpaid. I mean, we could say this player don't deserve that, but who are we to say what he don't deserve? And if your agent is going to give you that money, because that's what it comes down to, then I accept it. I mean, I don't know no player going to be like, nah, tell the GM, tell the team that's okay. I'm gonna give them back $6 or $7 million. They give it to you, they gonna take.
Ooh, you know what? Lawrence Williams made a good point. How about Jerome James? 3 years for $35 million.
Hey, the Knicks are a mess, man. The Knicks are a mess, man. That's why they can't win. When you give out these outrageous contracts to unproven players, man, come back and bite you in the behind, man.
Lawrence Williams said that I used to go to Dale Curry basketball camps at Virginia Tech in the early 90s. That's great. Mike Conley, we talked about. How about Juwan Howard? 5 years, $95 million.
Hey, he was the first guy to get $100 million contract, and he never made an NBA All-Star game. So definitely add him to the list.
Who, Juwan Howard?
Yeah, he was the first guy to get a $100 million contract.
You know what? He actually did made an All-Star team. He was made an All-Star team in '96.
Yeah, before the contract. Yeah, that's
the only All-Star appearance he had. But I will say this. I will add this point too. How about Glenn Robinson of the Milwaukee Bucks?
Oh yeah, because he never fulfilled his potential, man. I mean, he just didn't. You can have talent, but you have to be on the right team you got to be dedicated. You got to have the mindset, man. You know, Christian Laettner is another one. They were great college players, but they couldn't like really make it in the pros. You know, so you know, you could say that. Yeah, you know, you could say that. Yeah,
You know
he was
what?
overpaid.
Because the thing is, you know, when I grew up watching some Milwaukee Bucks games because I'm actually bordered on a few miles away from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I mean, there was always a feel that, you know, as good as Glenn Robinson is, if he would have taken this game a little bit seriously, he could have been much more. He only made 2 All-Star appearances, and the only reason why he won his only championship with the Spurs is because he was only a backup. That's it. To be honest with you, Big Dog was one of the best mid-range shooters I've ever seen. You know, during that time when I was growing up, but his defense was trash. I mean, I remember that 2001 playoff series against the Magic. Tracy McGrady ate him up for breakfast. Ate him up for breakfast. Like dropping 30-point games, even though they lost in 5 and they lost in 4 games because back then it was only a 5-game series in the first round. I mean, Tracy McGrady ate him up for breakfast. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead, Hyphy. Go ahead and spit, man.
Yeah. Now, Glenn Robinson, that mid-range jumper was good, but it's like that's the only thing he had. I felt he was always out of shape, at least not in the best shape he should have been in. And, yeah, like you said, T-Mac made him pay for it and pretty much exposed it. Some guys in recent history, we got to bring up Amari Stoudemire. You basically paid the dude, you know, all that money to look like an MVP for maybe like half of a season, and then as soon as Carmelo came over, it was pretty much, you know, all downhill. Another one a few years ago was Gilbert Arenas. Remember that dude was he was so horrible on that contract. They paid him like $22 million just to be done with him.
I swear though, bro. I mean, Agent Zero. I mean, I will say this though. Agent Zero was good though. Was good though, man. But you know, he was no leader in that locker room. You better make sure to keep your pistols away from him, though. Yeah, keep the pistols away. Agent Zero is gonna be loaded up with that. So, I mean, Amari Stoudemire. Here's the thing with Amari that I actually do like, though. He was a very athletic player who can really dunk, and he was actually getting better as his game progressed. But you know, he relied too much about his athleticism, and his knees wear out in the process. You know, when you're having athleticism, you got to combine with skill too, because when your athleticism dissipates, you know, you got to have that central skills. That's kind of like, you know, with Roy Jones Jr. You saw how he was when he got old. You know what I mean? Because Roy could box better than anybody. Great reflexes, great athletic ability, but when he got older and when he started moving up in weight, and then when he moved back down, you know, he didn't have the skill to keep up. You know, and that's how I kind of felt with Amari Stoudemire. You know, how about Rasheed Wallace?
Oh, I would say, I don't know the terms of his contract. He was a decent player. You know, I don't know how much he got, but I wouldn't really say so much. I would like to see his contract, but you know, he was a pretty decent player.
Right. But he could have been much more. He could have been much more if it wasn't for his attitude. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. Go ahead, Hyphy.
Remember Sean Kemp when he got his contract?
Hey, that dude has started having too many kids.
That dude had kids and got so overweight he couldn't even fucking catch the lobs anymore. I was like,
I know.
Damn.
I know, bro. I mean, the most embarrassing moment I ever seen, though. I mean, I think it was in a Golden State Warrior game. I think it was either Gilbert Arenas who was the point guard. He he made a bounce pass to the ground for Jay Richardson to get the lob pass, and then Sean Kemp tried to grab him, and then he still dunked on the Rain Man. I mean, he's like literally grabbing him, and then he basically Jay Richardson grabbed it with one hand and just like dunked it on him, and then Sean Kemp was walking around like, I don't feel like I should be playing anymore. I'm through with that stuff, man. I can't do it no more. Because like, I mean, I don't know what happened to that guy. I mean, he got his contract, but then when he got traded to Cleveland, he got big. I mean, after that 99 lockout, a lot of the players out of that lockout weren't the same after that. Mitch Richmond, let's see, Sean Kemp. Mitch Richmond, though, my God, Rich Richmond was one of the best shooters I've ever seen who can really catch and shoot. But then after that 99 lockout, when he got traded to the Wizards, he wasn't the same after that. You know what I mean? A lot of players in that 99 lockout weren't the same. You know, I know Sean Kemp and Mitch Richmond were the great examples there too. But I'm missing another name I was thinking of off my top of my head who weren't the same after that.
Let me see. Overpaid players. Darius Miles. You got to add him to the list.
Yep. And actually, we messed around with them in 2K2 as well. Can dunk like crazy. But, definitely overplayed. Especially when I traded. Go ahead, Ivy.
Eddie Curry.
Eddie Curry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Eddie Curry. Steve Francis was another mention.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, Steve Francis, he could have been much more too. But now I can't even recognize the guy. He looked like a bulldog face that just got his face pulled out of him.
I know, it was crazy.
I know.
Do you remember? Do you guys remember? There was a dude named Jason Williams. He signed with the Nets.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then he broke his leg when Marbury. You know what? That was another player that wasn't the same after that. Too. Yeah, what I actually heard about, when I read the story was that he was actually showing his guns to, to some people who were touring his house. And then he didn't know that the gun was still active. And then he accidentally pulled the trigger and killed his limo driver. It wasn't intentional. It was an accident. But yeah, man, Jason Williams though, bro, he was a decent player too. I wouldn't say he was a great player. He was a very good player. But then that knee injury when Stephon Marbury ran into him, he wasn't the same after that. In fact, here's the one thing I really get envious about it. Stephon Marbury got drafted by the Timberwolves, but after his rookie year, after KG got that big fat contract, Marbury got selfish though, bro. He got way too selfish because he wanted to be his own man. You know what I mean? And I will always resent the Timberwolves for not drafting Ray Allen. You know what? They drafted Ray Allen, but then they traded him to Milwaukee for Stephon Marbury. And to me, that was one of the biggest mistakes other than the Curry draft picks where we drafted Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio.
And, he's huge in China, man, Marbury, man. He's getting money over there.
Well, good for him, though, but he didn't do jack in the NBA. Only two All-Stars.
Nope. He sure didn't.
No, he didn't do jack in the NBA. Only made 2 All-Star appearances. And and the funny thing too is when he was with the Nets, he didn't make that team better. And then they traded him for Jason Kidd. They won the Nets won the deal. Made 2 NBA Finals appearances.
Let me see. Stephon Marbury, Sebastian Telfair, and Stevenson.
Deshaun Stevenson?
Huh?
Deshaun Stevenson?
No, the other one. The dark-skinned dude.
Lance Stevenson?
Yeah, they all from Lincoln High School, man. And for some reason, Brooklyn players never pan out, man. You can look at Lenny Cook. They never pan out.
It's just that, a lot of these, I really think that a lot of these players, though, man, that once they got their money, bro, they didn't get better. And another one I can think of, Joe Johnson. Although Joe Johnson was very clutch, though, he was another player that was overpaid, too, especially by the Hawks.
Yeah, I remember Joe Johnson.
And then also another name that pops out the head. How about Darren Williams, especially when he got signed to Brooklyn?
Oh man, he mailed it in. He didn't play hard, man. He played hard like a quarter and a half, man. He did not want to be with the Nets, man. He was there strictly for the money. I used to look at him, man. I said, this dude don't want to be here. He don't want to be here, and he, they get that money, man, and they act a fool, man. Real talk.
Right.
So the contracts are guaranteed.
Yeah. Unlike the NFL when the contracts are not really guaranteed except for the quarterbacks. So, yeah, bro, that is just weird as heck, though, man. I'm thinking about the Brooklyn Nets, how they came out a few years ago when Derek Williams, Joe Johnson, throwing all that money around, and obviously it didn't pan out well.
So I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, is there a way for these organizations maybe in the future to kind of, protect their investments a little bit better, or do you think
I
that's
don't
like
know.
something that the NBA should do?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
That's
that's gonna have to go through the players' union, man.
yep.
Because the players gonna fight that. The contract should be guaranteed. I mean, when a player get in trouble, you can void the contract, but for the most part, if they get hurt, you still getting your money.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was one of the main concepts of the Bird exception rule, because I remember the Bird exception rule that players can get a 1-year deal but can still get the highest amount of money there. But what it turned out was that a lot of players were getting big time money off of that rule, but that was not what the incarnation of the Larry Bird exception rule. You remember that one, Curtis?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think they still keep sections of the Larry Bird exception rule, but they kind of ranged it out now after the previous TV contract, where guys now getting like $200 and $300 million deals these days. I mean, that's just like double more than what the NFL player will make these days. Which $100 million deal is like a big deal in the NFL. It's like a huge fat contract in the NFL. I know my Vikings almost spent $100 million getting Kirk Cousins, and then he just played average football at best.
Yep. Yeah, I'll tell you, man. Listen, Harden is getting money. Westbrook is getting money. Of course, they deserve it. They the stars, man. I mean, Harden make like $40 million a year, man. He's getting his money, man. The money is there. So it's up to your agent, like I said before, to get you most as possible. Bryce Harper just 13-year, $330 million. So. It's billions and billions out there, man. Hey, if you can make that money, I ain't mad at you, because I'd rather see an athlete get money than go broke.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Lawrence Burns there, bro. He actually touched something that actually it gives me a little rawness in my heart. Joe Smith, my Virginia bro, got a bad contract from the Timberwolves. I'm gonna tell you this though, that Joe Smith contract basically destroyed everything for my T-Wolves, because when the NBA, when the NBA fined the Wolves and voided out Joe Smith's contract, they took away 5 draft picks for the last 5 years. You think about that. You think about the big contract they gave to KG in 1997, and then combine that with trading away Stephon Marbury, and then also with that Joe Smith signing. I'm telling you, bro. I mean, it was the worst time it could happen. I mean, we wasted almost like 5 years of KG's prime before we got Sprewell and Cassell, and then made it to the Western Conference Finals. Hey, what's going on, KO? Thank you for showing up there, my man. But yeah, though, bro. I mean, Joe Smith in Maryland was a beast, though, bro. But there was just something missing in Joe Smith that I really didn't like about him, though, bro. I mean, it was something incomplete with Joe Smith, though. I mean, I'll say this though. Shout out to the Golden State Warriors. I mean, the Warriors deserve all the shine they get at this point, because the Warriors were cursed though, bro. I mean, they had bad draft picks, bad trading, bad signings, you name it though, bro. I mean, it was just crazy though, man. I mean, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about some teams that could have won? How about that? I got a better question. Who do you think were like the worst organizations in the NBA? At all time or currently at this point? Let's start with Curtis Anderson.
Well, right now it's the Knicks, man. The Knicks is terrible. Seriously, man. They haven't won nothing since 73. Golden State used to be really bad, man. So, the place used to be half empty, but it's good to see them winning. They're the face of basketball. People love Golden State. They sell out everywhere they go. But right now it's the Knicks history. It used to be the Clippers was like really bad. They're not so bad right now. They have promise they probably get a big name player. It was the Nets. The Nets was horrible, man. For a very, very long time. And they're a surprise team this year. They're a surprise team. I didn't know they was gonna play this well. I thought there'd be like 20 games under 500, and they won a lot of good games. They beat Houston at Houston. The Nets are not that bad, but the Knicks been bad for a minute. When I guess they're gonna get some big name players or whatever. But Dolan, man, is a horrible owner. He's terrible, man. So I would say the Knicks are the most horrendous organization with the Phoenix Suns. So.
Boy, those are good topics there. How about you, Hyphy? Go ahead, my man.
Hey, I'm agree with the Knicks. I mean, you got even to this day, you got people that still like top players that are still willing to go, play in MSG, and it's like this is what you've been able to produce. But I was reading the chat, and Lawrence Williams, he did bring up a good point, talking about the '96 draft class. I want to ask you guys, '96 draft class versus the '03 draft class.
Woo! Great question. I'll go first on that one. The '96 draft class, probably one of the most deepest draft classes I've ever seen. But I'm kind of favoring towards the '03 draft class because there were a lot of franchise players come in that draft class, minus Darko Milicic. And let's be honest here, bro. If they had to do it over again, the Pistons should have either drafted Carmelo Anthony or Chris Bosh and did away Tayshaun Prince. But I'm more of the '03 draft class. How about you, Curtis?
Oh, man, you can't lose with either draft class, man. Speaking of Tayshaun Prince, he got a standing ovation yesterday at the Kentucky game. I was watching that game, and they, invited him back with open arms, man. I would have to go with probably '96, to be honest with you.
Ooh.
But you can't lose with either or.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't dispute that either. How about this? How about this though? How about the '84 draft class?
Oh wow, man, that might have been my favorite, man. Like I said, shout out to the Portland organization for bypassing Michael Jordan and picking Sam Bowie. God, dog, man.
Sam Bowie. You know what? And it's so funny though. I was actually watching old Sam Bowie games before he was in Kentucky. The dude was already injury riddled even before he got drafted. So I don't know what the Blazers were thinking, because I understand that the Blazers were thinking, okay, we got to compete against the Lakers or the Celtics on the line, so we'll need a big man. But by the time the game was changing, it was more of a guard-orientated league at that time. And, Sam Bowie, he was like a stretch 4 player, but he had brittle legs, though, bro. Brittle legs. So it was unfortunate, though, man, that he couldn't stay healthy for that long period of time. You know what I mean? My Jazz, and also shout out to Mark Wonderlick. He said that my Jazz were always in the middle. Let me tell you something about those Utah Jazz, though, bro. The Utah Jazz during those '90s, though, bro, they were really a tough-minded basketball team. But just like before, they just could not beat Michael Jordan and also Karl Malone. I hate to break it to you, Mark Wonderlick. Karl Malone choked in those '97 finals, especially with those missed free throws and also bad shooting, especially in that flu game. In that game 5, he shot 3. I think it was like 5 of 19 from that game 5. Horrible shoot. You know what I mean?
Michael Jordan stopped certain people for championships, man. God, dog. I mean, there's no other way. Ewing, Barkley, Drexler, Stockton, Malone. These are great players, man. He stopped them for getting championships, man.
Yeah,
that's why I said, there's no comparison when you compare him to LeBron James, Michael Jordan, far as away, greatest player, man, because of his mind. He had a strong mind. I mean, 6 NBA finals, man, those 7 games. He three-peated twice, so, that's hard to do, man, against those players, man. Great teams. He beat Portland and Phoenix. I remember the game at Chicago, man, went like 4 overtimes, man. That's one of the greatest games I ever seen when the Suns beat the Bulls, man. That was a great game.
Great game. That triple overtime classic. Remember that '76 finals too? That
Which
game also went, that game 5 between the Suns and the Celtics. That also went to triple overtime. Especially
the Van Arsdale twins and Garherd. And I remember that series, man. Garherd hit that shot, man, but that Suns and Bulls game, that went 4 overtimes, right? Or 3?
That was actually 3 overtimes.
You sure? I could have sworn it was 4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, it was triple overtime.
Yeah, it was triple overtime. But also, hold
Okay,
on
that
to that
game.
thought for a moment, though, Curtis. Two Robinson said, "What about that choke by Nick Anderson from Orlando?" Yeah, man.
Oh man,
That was
yeah,
the
I
end of
remember
him.
that.
Oh man, you know what? I was actually gonna bring that up though, bro. Nick. I would have accepted if it was Shaquille O'Neal missing free throws because he was a bad free throw shooter. But come on, Nick, just one free throw, just one bloody free throw, just to ice the game. Shout out to Two Robinson for that though. And then Mark Wonderland said about Karl Malone. He said he always prayed before his free throw. You know what? I always wonder what Carmelo said to himself during the free throws. Like when he would dribble the ball, he would say something. He would mumble something though, and I always think like, is he's cussing out to the fans or he's just praying or something like that? And then he was just praying. I think he was just trying too hard sometimes in clutch moments, and he would just miss them, you know. And KO said he was never the same. Nick Anderson was never the same after that. You know what? Oh man, Nick Anderson. He was a really good player when he came in from Illinois. And then after that, missing those free throws, it killed his confidence. He was never the same player after that. He just couldn't. Go ahead, Curtis.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. He woke the sleeping giant when he picked Jordan's pocket when Jordan had number 45. Jordan turned the ball over like 2 or 3 times in that fourth quarter, and they got eliminated. And when Jordan was walking off the court, chewing that gum, I told my brother, I said, next year, the NBA going to pay. And that's when they won those 72 games and won the championship. It was Nick Anderson who picked Jordan Pocket. Remember?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I never forget that game.
Jordan turned the ball over like about 2 times in the last 2 minutes, inexplicably. You know, he came up behind and picked Jordan's pocket, and Jordan was so mad with himself, man. I said, the NBA going to pay next year.
And you know what? And also I was going to bring up too, that same game after the turnover, he was actually dribbling the middle of the floor. He was actually in midair and he was ready to take the shot, but then he saw Pippen cutting to the basket and he thought, well, maybe I should give it to Pippen. And he gave it to Pippen, and then Pippen was like, "Why did you give me the ball? Usually you shoot it." Funny stuff I've ever seen though, bro. You know what I mean?
But you know, I lost respect for Pippen when he didn't want to go into the game. Talk about he had a headache. Remember that?
Oh yeah. You know what? That was actually that Pistons series. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also remember '94 when he said, "Oh no, I'm not going into the game for the last possession, though, because you're drawing up a play for Kukoc." You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh man. I like Pippen though. As a Bulls fan, I always will forever respect Pippen, but he has some shady moments in his career though too, especially
he was only strong when Michael Jordan was on the court. When Michael Jordan wasn't around, he wasn't the same player. Stats, but you know, he felt comfortable with Jordan. But when Jordan wasn't there, man, you know, it was a different Pippen mentally.
Right, exactly. I was actually gonna bring up another thing too. What was I going to say? You know, that go back to that 2000 conference. Those 2000 conference finals when he was in Portland, and also Two Robinson said, "Yep, they beat Pippen up in that Pistons series." Oh yeah, that's right, bro. Anytime Pippen drove into the lane, you had Rodman and then you had Lambeer just driving him to the ground. Nonstop. It was crazy though, bro. You know what I'm saying? Man, oh man. The Pistons and the Bulls had some great battles during that time. You know what I mean? I just wish we had more rivalries in the NBA these days because we're lacking them right now. We need rivalries again. We need to have players stop being friends with one another. We just need some sustain. You know what I mean? That's what we're missing in the NBA. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you agree with that, guys?
Yeah, man. The Bulls and Knicks was great rivalry, man. I remember, you know, Gundy talking bad about Jordan. He wanted to take you out to dinner just to cut your throat. And I remember at the Garden, every time Jordan made his shot, he would talk to Gundy on the bench, man. I miss those days, man.
You know what? 1997, he basically called Jordan a con man, and then he dropped 51 points. That was in that 97 season. You remember that one, Curtis?
Yeah, yes, I do. I remember the double nickel game too when he came back. You know, and he
on
dropped
the Knicks.
55. Yep. And he was smiling. He was laughing every time he made a shot. He would like giggle. He would laugh. I said, man.
I mean, he would giggle and laugh because he realized how easy this was. Like, y'all can't guard me. Stop trying.
It was just something him being at the Garden when he first came in the league. He did that windmill dunk, you know, man. And when he did that, he was off and running, man. You know, you know what kind of player he was going to be. You know what they say. The only player who could stop Jordan was Dean Smith, the college coach.
You know what? I was actually going to bring up that too. I was actually thinking about that too, because Dean Smith wouldn't let no other star players, take over the game. He always wanted to keep it under his four corners offensive system. You know what I mean? I mean, and then after you think about this, James Worthy, a great player. He actually did really well in North Carolina, but if Dean Smith would allow James Worthy to actually be himself out on the court, oh man. I mean, Dean Smith had a lot of great players in North Carolina, but I felt like he should have won more national championships, though. I mean, you can't tell me you can't win multiple championships when you had, obviously Jordan, Sam Perkins, James Worthy, and then you also had the fact you had Antoine Jameson, Vince Carter, and then who else? Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace. You can't tell me you can't win multiple national championships.
Y'all, Kenny Smith, Jimmy Black.
Yep.
Brad Doherty.
Definitely though, man. Sometimes when you say that Dean Smith is a bit an overrated coach, a little bit.
Yeah, he always believed in the old school way of coaching, man. I think he was a little out of touch with the younger players, so he wanted more of a system where the game was passing him by. So he, so that's why he didn't win like he should have. But he's such a beloved figure in North Carolina, he can walk on water.
For sure. Yeah, no doubt about it, though, man. No doubt about it. Okay, guys, so I'm about to get out of here soon, so let's try to get some last words in. So go ahead, Hyphy, go ahead and speak whatever you wanted to chat on the discussion or anything like that.
Yeah, I definitely got my mind jogging about just so many moments regarding basketball. I'm gonna throw in something that's definitely like a basketball moment for me. If you obviously not from out here, you wouldn't understand, but being in LA, a good thing about the Lakers, especially when they're at least winning and doing good all the times in history, playing at the Forum, Showtime Lakers, all that stuff. Something that I definitely notice is when the Lakers are, having a good year, crime kind of goes down because it seems like the Lakers are the only, thing that can like really bring people together. That's like the only thing that can bring people together. Rival gangs, whether black, Mexican, whatever. That'll be the time when they'll kind of leave that stuff alone if the Lakers win. So many moments I remember, Lakers winning important playoff games and stuff, and it just being like peace in the streets, everybody being happy. So that's definitely a basketball moment that's just gonna always stick with me. And I don't even like the team anymore, but hopefully they get back to winning ways. That'll definitely change something because crime increases in the summertime. As far as the boxing and stuff, moving forward, we just hope that we just get more consistency as far as judging and everything. And of course, just getting these belts unified. Porter won. Let's see what he does next. Obviously, don't like the dude, but we'll just see what happens next. One way or another, Porter looks like food for whoever, Bud or Earl. If he faces either one of those guys, he just looks like food.
For sure, though, man. All right, go ahead, Curtis. Give me your last words, man.
First of all, I want to tell y'all who are the biggest franchise? What are the biggest franchise in NBA? Celtics or the Lakers?
Oh, great question. You know what? I'm gonna go with the LA Lakers. It's hard for me to say because the Celtics has been more successful in terms of championships, but in terms of organizationally and popularity wise, I may have to go with the Lakers on that one.
Okay.
My answer is the same because like you said, yeah, they've been more successful. But if you're looking for as far as just like like they do this whole thing about promoting, expanding your brand and some all that type of stuff. If you're looking at it from that point, you come into LA basically. So I guess for that reason, yeah, I would say LA.
All right, cool. All right, Curtis, my man, go ahead and give me your last words.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for inviting me, man. You and Hyphy, man. Really enjoyed this basketball talk. If any sport that can rival boxing at its finest, man, will be the college March Madness tournament. It's a wacky tournament, man. Upsets and buzzer beaters, man. I'm still mad at Larry Johnson for not taking that 3-pointer against Duke. Still mad at him because of that. He passed it up. He kind of choked. But anyway, thanks, Abel, man, for a great live stream, man. And I'll see you soon, my brother.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. So this has been Mehari Sports Nation, though, man. We'll be back next Saturday, same place, same time. Y'all go ahead and smash the like button on the way out. And also next weekend will be Selection Sunday, so we're going to see who makes it to the field of 64, and then the road to Minneapolis begins. So I'm going to be playing some good stuff, some good live streams, and then I'll try to see if I can get some tickets so y'all can check out the exclusive stuff in the Final Four when it goes down in Minneapolis. So this has been a Mehari Sports Nation with Mobile Mehari with Curtis Anderson and Hyphy. Shout out to the LDBC. Y'all make sure to smash that like button on the way out, and have a great week, guys. Take care.
Peace.